Dear Tom Homan and Face the Nation, I know that you guys know about a lot of things I missed out learning about or experiencing or knowing about. But I know too that I observed a lot of things that you guys miss. Like, for example, relative to black people's rights of eyes. You guys are missing. You guys have rules of predicate acts with facts at countries A through Z with the criminal enterprises and the terrorists that you counter as timed collusion slash S with differences while being and having been used remotely. It's not personal. It's recorded. WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others about the World Trade Center attack, about others put fake locations with me and people I never even had conversations with, including doctors as a kid too, and then as an adult. Increasingly, people involved with wire crimes on my street with Wethersfield police that pretended me to fake conversations with them as a kid, and then now as an adult. And there are connections between the people involved with it distinctly, non-distinctly, when I was a kid and an adult. Putting fake transcripts at campuses too, the same ones involved, with differences racketeering, like Mendez police brothers. There's an older one I never had a word of conversation with in my life. He stole a sentence I said to my Saudi friend at the Wethersfield police station to a pretended conversation with him, which was also him simultaneously with the other people with whiting forensics at a different location involved with the same police report. They said there's a Phil Kalol involved with it, which also brings up a Ray Kalol and his father, Ray Kalol, also one who shot a pellet gun at me the day before the president was shot. No. Involved also with FBI Director Robert Luskin, with former mayors and people tied to them, planting evidences on the sides of parks, too, for some reason. And I figured out, too, as people at corners of streets, why and how it is manifest through time that way. These are people increasingly on and off the state judicial branch offices and on off the state corrections offices with the worst roles, with the worst uses of criminal enterprises and of private ones, and of criminally foreign influence and of tactically delusions wrought, and worse, readings of American history, replacing what James Madison communicated to us, declassified, about how no one had free speech, because everyone's speech was measured and maintained to an extent collusion slash S against everyone else. Otherwise, that body had been sensed and that had been adapted to. Everyone had to hide their actual motivations for having the audacity to break laws, let alone a T-tax. That's an insult to the little kids in the any location with little kids could discern that. There's a breaching method involved here as a scientific value. It is being and has been replaced right from the founders' communications. The experts on the law are leaning on the experts of history. They are leaning on campuses individually grouped and together, being and having been used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw collusion slash S, with that use of all locations slash S right through our country's foundings. That's why and how in America and in Russia founded before us, still from America to Russia to Ukraine, etc., the suburbs look exactly alike, designed for torture, extortion, and slavery of everyone sickly distinctly, though, but sickly non-distinctly, too, in northern colonies and southern colonies. They had slavery right against black people's whites of eyes, nature's communications to us. No, with nature, with other species with two eyes. Quality aspects of nature distinct, but non-distinct and simultaneously, but per that further hyper-simultaneous, per how it shows us an extent of the ability to discern its body. The parts of grammar, the parts of speech, of English grammar, for example, they are the invisible but still discernible. And why and how we need more than one name for a verb is about the hyper invisible but still discernible. It is about those three parts of time that are three distinct parts, distinct, hyper invisible, but still discernible parts. Like the part of the past that we know is gone, but we know it was true always to an extent. And we know there's a part of the past that we know is real, but we don't know about it. There's a part active group truth slash truths, because there's one truth, hyper truth, generating all other things. It is generating how there is a species body of individual bodies with all group differences, and a whole totally different species bodies, individual bodies of individual species of individuals with all group differences. You guys make and entertain. The breaching method showed countries A through Z how to make subject treatments, how to appreciate exceptions and exception nature, fake, using truths for lies, using truths to screen lies, putting lies between truths, using fake motivations. Forgiveness is because a breaching method motivated countries A through Z, their syntax, quality aspects, and nature, not just America replacing what our founders communicated. There are criminally foreign influence slash hyper criminally foreign influence use slash uses of subject treatments in backgrounds in our faces. These are not people legitimately caring about sexual things. They're putting fake things in databases. These are behavior racketeering roles. With what a breaching method showed, interbranch, they could lie about how, when, and why they know people's names. And what they lie about what they think of it. Look, it's, in other words, like people with the name Perone and Kerr, involved too, increasingly with people tied to Perones. I don't even know them. They're involved intercities, including with journalists. I never had a class, never saw them inside of school in my life. I only know them in like years apart too. They're involved with intelligence families that have been planting evidences at corners of streets, people associated with corners, also involved at other corners doing that. People next to a corner near Paul Kelly, I don't know where he lives, if he lives there now still. I don't know him. His neighbors, I don't know their names. They're involved with WTNH, with the FBI, and with some courts and their family members. With the same house slash S involved with child abusers, leaders of the kids' first force, and interbranch and foreign kids, and overt criminal enterprises, and private ones and their kids and adults were our plotting. All kinds of fake motivations. And then until it's real, they're building on it from the youngest ages. And they're putting, the same ones are putting predicate acts with facts, roles, self-value, a certain type of victim slash hyper victim, right, where they're not self-valuing it. But everyone, like with black people's whites of eyes, everyone self-values other people blaming on other things, others ourselves. Why and how that hyper evidential evidence is. Those revelations have been shown right through. What has been wasting our time. Replacing right from the founders' communications, having people point guys as fake integrity, using our founders' words, leaving out how they didn't have free speech, how they declassified this. In nature itself shows us they didn't have free speech, pretending things are debatable, why that are not, because inside the quality aspects in nature of debate are quality aspects in nature overtly slash insidiously criminally foreign influence slash tactically delusions raw. Already the breaching method showed the names of the people of the sciences and exceptions at the same time. They had to hide the same finite details, grouped and simultaneous ones, while increasingly incapable of affording short words of anyone proper by the identity of the hyper simultaneous. That which is not our species body, it's not the other species bodies, but it's all things anyway. That which is the value of the Constitution unabridged and why and how we have rights are too numerous to have to list them, let alone little breaching method branches roles, the difference of their guilt, the overt criminal enterprises, the private ones, the campuses, the other people tied to other natures of the database, including unfathomed since before computers, the databases of the republic for which we stand in the campus of Marcia system, and our ability to discern its identity, led by the hyper simultaneous, also positive onto itself as nature, not only as nature as criminal insidiousness, which is one of the reasons why the suburbs look almost exactly alike in America, Russia, and Ukraine, even though they're with the simultaneous that's hyper additionally, where we are grounded, where our black people's whites of eyes communications have been replaced, and self-valued roles have been with that guise of the fake integrity of the ability to handle the most serious issues like peaceful nuclear threats at countries A through Z, exactly the way the hyperforeign knew they would. And then when nature would demonstrate that with negative value nature progressions, acts, and nature's like criminal insidiousness, nature's wrongdoing itself on a mass scale that the breaching method knew. They would have to respond to that as fact should be nature, and it shows them since some ancient times the identities and the names of the people of the sciences to keep what's actually being demonstrated, instead blame the other things, others, ourselves. And to value means that to value the phenomena where other people also had real motivations they could use to hide their real motivations for collusion /S at every location /S, everywhere the human species body has a body. We had obligations to not play games with the relativity, the how we have black people's whites of eyes. Our founders just told us the only thing they taught us good in school, I believe to everyone, is that we're not supposed to shoot until we see the whites of eyes. For example, the breaching method that reassigned with nature communicates with where we have the same color eyes and different color eyes at the same time. And the colors that are the same are white and black. And we've had this left out all the time. That's also hyper evidential. It comes with the revelations. It also comes again with other species bodies have two eyes also. They have quality aspects in nature, limbs, they have hair, they have consciousness, even the bugs to an extent. If a bug comes in your house this summer, or when a bug comes in your house, instead of killing it, try to get out to walk onto a paper towel and try to talk to it as if it were a pet and with a nice manner, and get it to go on there and just fold it over it and then take it outside and release it. We have been as a system, and then further hyper additionally as a ground system per its system, but now a system's tactical terror in nature is hypernative pure. Nature itself shows us to value the difference between president and chief. And had we allowed honesty regarding the extortion of George Washington, it would have brought up James Madison's plan as a founder before he was a president. As that plan, too, was to George Washington agreed to use it. We were supposed to be honest about his extortion, though. And no one had the ability to be honest about their motivations for wanting to get the Constitution unabridged. Everyone had to have syntax in nature itself as an extent of collusion / collusions against everyone else and themselves, and or that body would have been sensed and still is sensed, including if that body is a majority of people, including if it is everybody black pupils, and that is adapted to. Any grouping of nations that would come to counter the negative value nature of progressions, acts, and natures that this caused, and that counters to what it causes. Blamed on other things until real. But even that, so those reals will be used wrong. A whole bunch of mass back victim predator / hyper victim, hyper predator. That's why and how different nations had roles with more than 13 colonies, but with slavery entrenched in the northern colonies and the southern colonies, distinctly. Those identities of those nations only had and have a semi-possession of their identities. So things appear to be debatable that are not. So they have results that have been the equivalent of torture, extortion, slavery, and war. For example, used to screen roles replacing what our founders communicated about revolution in those original entrenchments. They had no means to even address syntactically, therefore physically. James Madison's plan and the founders behind him forced the rest of the founders, Native Americans and colonists, and citizens. But 3/3 of our founders are Native Americans, in the addition of James Madison's name, which is equal to the founders plural as the colonists and as the Native Americans who agree. No, because there was no unity. Already everyone at A through Z, since before religious messengers were even born, the names of the people of the sciences have been forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded to abridge the words of the sciences and to maintain roles with this, incapable of defending that and reporting to be, let alone to protract short words with convictions proper, let alone with blame and guilt. The names of a certain type of victim / hyper victim spoke on crimes, while as the breaching method showed them shows them to justify that and to pretend they could get away with the integrity, originally still a certain type of victim / hyper victim showing how to act and pretend not to realize they had self-value rules of predicate acts and facts. And abuses of themselves the same way. In other words, if anyone observes all natures of success, they are dependent upon natures of debate that are still offense to any individual voice, even if it's a leader, no matter how powerful that leader gets, as long as locations, areas, and states have entertained even nature itself, used to prevent the significance of how we have Black people's rights of eyes, used to prevent the evidentials, the revelations from how our founders were placed right from the communications of our founders, is how they didn't have free speech and why they didn't have free speech and how everyone's speech had been invested by a breaching method that would run algorithms before computers. There were internationally monitored conversations I learned at notes at Central Connecticut State University. There were internationally monitored conversations where it was highly criminal to have been found out, to have been heard. Listening to someone speaking about building infrastructure outside of internationally monitored conversations. They'll hurt that person, everyone around them. No, and they had slavery already entrenched northern colonies and southern colonies. See, a smart or wise person would have known and would have of American history They have the breaching method showed everyone to have self-guided roles with uses of knowledge of good and evil. For example, to use a phrase from the Old Testament, to get over on correlation nature. But that's using a phrase from it out of sequence from what it says to defend first only. The Old Testament says defend right here, where the names of the people, the sciences will come together, and the part that comes before it. See, the people who attack the religion, the people who defend the religion with passions and emotions, they have not been honest about that first part, or even known about it, or the part with the after it. Therefore, with the tree of knowledge of good and evil, can't be not honest about that. We're not going to be honest about where it says only defend right here, where the names of the people, the sciences will come together, in the part that comes before it. And so they can't be honest about the difference of that either. And that comes before the part with the knowledge of tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil, Adam and Eve and their generation with the crazy names. I play no games. In other words, this is per science. It's recorded how the atheists too have syntax in nature as collusion /s with those differences, being and having been used remotely, also with the differences as adults and as kids, as the dean judge, or not a president judge of Central Connecticut State University in the past, and he has a kid. I don't know his name, but foreign and domestic military make communicated confessions to me and requests to help. Communicated. To an extent, some of them knew, some of them don't even know what they communicate. But I'm having to refer to it that way because they're switching names at the branch. And with foreign and domestic military line using, if they have legitimate roles with criminal enterprises and with all these different countries, with things, bad things, and they're caught with illegitimate roles. They're just going to say they're going to pretend in the background it's the legitimate roles, and they're not going to get it onto paper as they have been doing, while have been used remotely by other names, including hyper additional from the Saudi attackers. There is a method recorded that keeps roles with methods plural, interstates at the World Trade Center and Washington locations. Involved also inter-campuses and intra-campuses with names that are putting illusions in the acting tied to illusions, influence to acting tied to as collusion /s with illusions stacked into databases, including there is mass medical corruption note, which is drug crimes. And right where people make arguments about things and they're speaking about drugs, like fentanyl is a distinct drug from marijuana. And then if you throw a little kid in a jail or an adult in a jail with someone who's involved with fentanyl, that's distinct from someone there involved with marijuana. And then they have all kinds of natures of organized crimes and cover-ups and predicate acts with facts methods with like Sandy Hook campuses has medical corruption involved with people with body dumping spots and a serial killer personally and people next to the body dumping spot. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Eric Burgess. He requested me to help him, which turned out I don't know all their names, but people at and next to school campuses, like a dean judge and his family members. I never had a word of conversation with his kid. They're trying to plant fake evidences and motivations and sequence shifts with people all along Route 175 and conjunctive to it. Involved further with identity theft, fraud, slanders within the branch, putting fake things in databases through time. Fake motivation, behavior racketeering. Also as people intercities and intra-cities and on and off and next to campuses involved with the timed collusion slash S, pretending passions and emotions with other people's names, changing and faking ties to them, including kids of the campuses. And with whiting forensics is increasingly with digital crime acts and methods and wire crime acts and methods that the interbranch have been using. All kinds of scams. They've been charging people all kinds of money to pretend they had conversations with themselves, like at whiting forensics. I mean, at Harvard Hospital. Whiting forensics has a Joshua Julian involved with people with Facebook, a whole bunch of direct and indirect ways. Also involved with all completely on their own criminally foreign influence predicate acts with facts against all ages of fact-cheating nature, sickly distinctly too, including with a principal upskirt nature, involved with whiting forensics, with digital crimes through times, with a whole bunch of people tied to a Joshua Julian, like a Ray Collot and a Mark Violet and a Mike Violet, and others with Harvard Hospital with foreign and domestic military, and people with the state capitol involved with the O'Brien family, and people next to it with like my own family, people through time involved intercities and trust cities, putting sequence shifts, changing and faking things that are actually recorded, and roles with the people at Central Connecticut State University involved with sequence shifts and predicate acts on all sides of my house, people from other areas that sought me out to make confessions and demonstrations of this. Also to pretend I knew them before I did know, and fake motivations with that. As people increasingly tied to all kinds of distinct things, intercities, recorded time, including on Facebook, and they know about this. They're searching for cover-ups. They have confessions, and they recorded themselves with body dumping spots and names next to them years apart, including of a serial killer, totally different murders at the same time, and untimely deaths on off campuses. They had time collusion slash S rolls with it. They know it's with names at next to the corrections offices and next to and conjunctive to the judicial offices through time. Eric Oliveri, I only know as a stranger, sought me out to make fake exceptions of knowing me because of his roles with people with the state judicial branch offices. Also with identity theft, fraud, slander, stacking fake things in databases with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, state police, judges, prosecutors, their family members, people with shipping locations, also involved with them with predicate acts on my street in my area per people tied to them with corners of streets. It has something to do, too, they said, with the Joshua Stryker. And he's involved with them at Trinity College. He put fake things in databases about me, fake conversations with me, with him, with others. And in other words, they try to make fake exceptions of the one so they can't put it on paper because they did this between campuses through time. Increasingly, people tied to in other words, and it's hard to talk when you're trying not to use people's names. And if you use their names, it make it sound like you know them. The people just timed where you're going to be to make it look like they know you. They're involved inter-cities and intra-cities, inter-campuses and intra-campuses with predicate acts with facts method slash S. That's what's recorded. These are some black KKK Confederate flag theme right on the Facebook page of the principal upskirt nature while they were forcing it with retired Wethersfield police chiefs, increasingly involved with their expanding members and extended intimate ties and pretending passions and emotions towards me that don't even know me with the same house slash S with wire crimes with the Wethersfield police that attached me to fake conversations of being at the Wethersfield police station as a kid and then as an adult. And I had to hide that by pretending that with the news too. That won't get on. They put me in fake conversations with them. The other news places at the same time they have their sources put fake ties, fake natures of ties to me, put sequence shifts, fake motivations for it. They have more people then and now involved with it. In other words, they're trying to make good people, they're keeping them evil, but also by silence. In other words, they're the ones that brought up their names and things are different. Oh, well, that's what we're doing. We're just repeating what we heard about you. But you guys, this is recorded. This is recorded. I don't know in other words, there are people with the name O'Connor involved with people with the name Klotz and people with a Marco Mancini, for Joe DeMoro, and his roles with Heather Hansen, other boyfriends she had that were involved with predicate acts against me, other people I knew, intercities. They're putting fake things and fake motivations. Also with the Mr. Neville, people all along Route 3, all along on Church Street in Old Weathersfield, involved with the newest people and on off campuses involved with predicate acts and facts. Before the World Trade Center attack, long term and short term, like the Dean Judd. I never saw Eric Burgess on a campus in my life. It has something to do with I never saw him at a park near his house, near West Farms Mall in my life. It has something to do with the Joseph Dennis too. Increasingly, there's a former Mayor Gold, reportedly a former mayor, and his daughter, Debbie Gold, and I involved with putting fake things in the databases with a sixth grade teacher that used to live near me, who was putting fake things in databases at my campus in sixth grade. And with the people in my fifth grade teacher involved with Joe DeMoro, involved with home break-ins in intercities and in my area with Heather Hansen. And she was with other home break-ins in the area with other people besides him, I believe, too. The difference of that is also exploited. I don't even know the people. I just know the confessions, and that was also tied to another untimely death. And then weird use /S of that house and their roles with nonverbal confirmations and communications of roles with a former mayor. I mean, with a former Kevin Dillon and other people tied to a Kevin Dillon involved with planting predicate acts and federal evidence as crimes on all sides of my house, as people that in other people's houses, and their roles doing that with the campuses too. They're putting fake ties, fake natures of ties between people that aren't even in the same class, never even see each other on the same campuses. Increasingly, there are doctors named a Dr. Dingleberry, a Dr. Dewberry, and there's people with the name Leahy, doctors with the name Leahy, men and women, involved with the Yagman family, involved also with people at the corner of Southstein Highway and Two Rod Highway, and Southstein Highway and Town Line Drive, involved through different ownerships of the buildings, involved with the FBI and people involved with the World Trade Center attack, involved with a whole bunch of different countries with differences, racketeering past, where they're needing to hide those differences and roles with collusions with that. Now, while having been used remotely, shown needs to. There's a Tom Perron that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. He's got people tied to him involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, also with the Kerr family, and people with the name Paul Abted. People involved, Abate. There's people with the name Abted involved with the Hartford Hospital with the phones and databases, criminally foreign influence, identity theft, fraud, slanders. People that were I never had a conversation with Jody Pierce in my life. They filmed a fake exception, tried to film a fake thing with a Tony DeMoro, who was involved with some judges and prosecutors and child offenders through time. Different leaders of Kids First Force, also medical and sexual, with some East Hartford locations and intelligence families and spots next to the CRT building, including a business there and some houses there. A Jennifer Cormier is one of the ones involved with the Joe DeMoro, Heather Hansen, with the FBI, also with people next to Fox Connecticut News, involved with. They said a Dawn LaConche. They might have taken my picture near her. I never had a word of conversation with Dawn LaConche. They have recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed that Dawn LaConche is involved with them. I never saw on the inside of a campus in my life too. And I was longing for her presence for a moment. Has something to do with people involved with criminal enterprises at the youngest campuses and with people at the other campuses and people next to those campuses involved with identity theft, frauds, and slanders against the kids as one's intercities, also involved through time next to Harvard Hospital with Tomorrow's Market, ILO's Kitchen, and people named Mayano, involved with the police that attached me to fake conversations with them as a kid and then as an adult, and with the news, and their roles with my neighbors with Elm Streets and Weathersfield and Rocky Hill and Weathersfield, also with people named Oliveri, involved with the World Trade Center attack, with identity theft, fraud, slanders too, with predicate acts and databases, predicate acts with facts against me behind my back, and people involved with this Joshua Stryker, with identity theft, fraud, slanders to me, to others, and at my campuses behind my back. Try to make it look like other. In other words, they're needing to get on paper. They won't get on paper. They have an officer that used the name Darth Vader involved with the differences. These are people at Central Connecticut State University and at Trinity College with the names next to them, involved with people named Cololo and O'Brien, involved with a whole bunch of other people that involved also with putting their educators, putting fake things in databases, and with some of mine that I never had a personal conversation with, putting fake things in databases with them. And in other words, and fake motivations for it. Mr. Neville has something to do with the only thing he repeated and demonstrated. He has roles with his family and with foreign and domestic families all along Route 3 in conjunctions to the state judicial branch offices. And his roles with ski trips and people with Vermont and interstates with state police families and people on my street and tied to them, involved with the home break-ins in the area, involved with people tied to this Mr. Neville, and his roles with some judges and prosecutors, involved with the Rick Sanfaglione, putting fake things in databases and spreading lies behind my back. He said that a Leahy family is involved with it. And the Leahy family attached me to fake conversations with themselves through the mail. And I still haven't had a response. That's not even to me. I can't get a response from the people from Harvard Hospital involved with this. They have Judge Napolitano's sense and sensibilities as evidences with judges pretending passions and emotions, including the judges involved on the judicial branch offices and the corrections offices, offices of Connecticut, and all sides of criminal and civil cases, including of courts higher than the ones, the Superior Court that Judge Napolitano was involved with. But these are people, not following mandated law, otherwise it would have been brought up how they have the rules with a whole bunch of different countries. Like Weathersfield Pizza House has rules. They're confessing. They have rules with pretending other two at the same time with a wire crime acts and methods. Weathersfield Police have with a Stephen Stockoff and his rules with people at Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and terrorists, note with torture and uses of words like radical and extremism, while they are roles of predicate acts with facts, black pupils. You should preach how we could discern more than you guys too, the experts. You should get Harvard Hospital. They owe a lot more money than we needed for real health care. And the lawyers should fear God now. And why have I not been responded to by UConn too? They have their students involved with all kinds of organized crimes there and delusions. You guys have criminally foreign influence at campuses A through Z, takes on American history. You guys have James Madison's communications replaced. And you have how they didn't have free speech replaced. You have it pretended debatable and relied upon self-value roles with criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, or readings of convictions by the principles of history. Collusion/S roles haven't been used remotely. It's not to call you guys names. You have to get me off the fake conversations with the people at Harvard Hospital, get them on paper, one name in sequence. 2 times they totally made things to set me up. And with rape threats right before that on Facebook with the ones involved with the principal child abuser. That was before that. There's an Officer Jerry Miller after that too, still involved with digital crimes with people planting evidence on all sides of my house. Even people with the fire departments involved with Hartford Hospital, put with their records too, their criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, uses of the descriptions of people. So we're gonna have to get them onto paper, one name and sequence, because they have overt criminal enterprises and private ones involved. Fred Grisette is involved with people at Staten Island in New York per Facebook, but also per the network's roles with a police chief Centron. Also, his roles with a holiday message through the Bravo network. He has roles with foreign and domestic military with names at the World Trade Center with the attack, used to repeat fake things and locked into it, and worse, on off campuses to have something to do with their roles with the Wethersfield Community Center too, and names on all sides of it, like a Jody Pierce and a Jeremy Grohl. Has roles with also with some judges and prosecutors involved with a Subby Bajaria with intelligence on the sides of Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut. With him, roles with planting federal evidences, crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders on the sides of the schools through time, and with people involved with more sexual and medical offenders of kids. And I never had a class with Subby Bajaria. I never saw him inside of a school in my life. They try to make it look like other like syntactic ways, all kind of tricks. These are people increasingly with the Britain Superior Court, Hartford Courts, and the District Court involved with the Subby Bajaria with leaders of the kids. He had roles with the principal upskirt nature, with other natures of organized crime, identity theft, fraud, slanders against me, and with the news companies involved. And I can't get one person onto paper for one thing. So, and they use wire crime, mail crime methods. They already put me fake attaching the fake letter, fake writing, change it. Every exception they use criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw too, in ways they're not allowed to. Oh, well, what law says we're not allowed to? Get me off the fake conversation with WFSB and interbranch that switch names, sports names, make confessions. Tell me the name of who disbelieves, and get Judge Napolitano too. To have, because Fox Connecticut News has roles with digital crimes, with state police families interstates, and with the overt criminal enterprises and private ones, some sexual and medical offenders of kids, putting fake transcripts in databases, lying about what they think about people's mental health as experts on that. Hartford Hospital owes a lot of money to a lot of people with people that have been fake healthcare. I'm not even a doctor, delineate their delusions from their criminally foreign influence, fact, quality aspect of nature. Get me a response for the confessions of the for them. From the Dr. Shamsi Ali, I never even had a conversation with him. He said the same thing. He said, well, I'm not even with them anymore. In other words, apparently they forged his name and just put whole fake transcripts, things they needed to wanted to say. These are people that are using our collusions with the Britain Superior Court, have a Brian Silver, and a Connecticut District Court has a Brian Silver, and has a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, involved with a whole bunch of people like a Thaddeus Grabowski, people with the name Mendez and Domain, next to Fox Connecticut News, involved also with digital crimes, further against all ages of fact-checking nature, and with the Wethersfield Police Facebook page, with a Joshua Schumack, also is one of the ones involved with the Joshua Julian, who has been planting evidences and fake motivations, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me, intercity, try to play fake exceptions too. And they involved with more some KKK themed, Confederate flag themed, interreligious nutbags themed at the same time, collusion /S, even black, white, female judges with this detective Samuda and others involved with him, with wire crimes and sexually natured abuses of kids, and medical with Central Connecticut State University, involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, with the courts individually grouped in together before the World Trade Center attack, and then after it too, with an officer Hunter too, with Hartford Courts, with Emily or Amy, and some officer Hunter who is involved also with them, with the deans of the campuses, and people sticking fake things in there. like this Joshua Stryker who's been lying about himself, putting me in fake locations, fake ties, fake natures of ties to him and to others. And with the people around him, they're just repeating fake things. Increasingly, too, they record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. There's a Mike Pendloff involved. He's also all sides of criminal and civil cases and depositions, putting fake motivation, screening, and what's actually recorded involved with that, and the actual other foreign names involved. He reported, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed too his roles with people all along Route 3 and with the businesses too, like the gas stations through time, and their conjunctions, like the conjunctions to Route 3, like Hangdog Lane and Town Line Drive, and its conjunctions with it, which is also conjunctive to it, is the Burl Turnpike before the heart of Hartford. See black pupils, white, see the whites of eyes as cipher to decipher too. James Madison's plan caused the Civil War. Who disbelieves? So these are also people with a former Governor Malloy involved with intelligence community with University of Maine and other campuses associated with the Dr. Shu and with modern languages and translators. There are criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw subject treatments that can't afford to appreciate what nature shows us. Why and how the identity of the law is to appreciate predicate acts with facts as those that are discernible relative to where and to how. What nature communicates with black pupils, whites of eyes, replaced. Where nature is where not only itself has criminal insidiousness nature. Nature's full self has been prevented free speech as Native Americans, distinctly from ourselves, but also non-distinctly. Part of the reason we have not capitalized on that together is because we have blamed things that are hyper criminally foreign influenced on criminal foreign influences as rules of the way the breaching method needs to keep everyone locked, blaming other things, others, ourselves, valuing that having been, where and how all have stayed roles, pretending one had the integrity to speak for such serious things like war, like the impositions by nuclear, peaceful nuclear energy generation, let alone nuclear weapons. Let alone nuclear weapons, while the suburbs have been designed before America's founders were born for torture, extortion, slavery. That's not even debatable, let alone what the breaching method still has in place, what's used to get away with pretending that's debatable, while tactically delusions wrong. Black pupils, train! Who disbelieves? So they have been putting faked and changed audio and video transcripts. Harvard Hospital, through administrations, has roles with the difference of Republican and Democrat used, where people make questions, speak of them, used with names like control. The breaching method showed that they can't afford to have discerned what the actual value of their uses of words like control and power into branch have been. It trained their campuses. It trained them to value it's how it showed them to speak for and to appreciate the differences of campuses, the best ones and the worst ones. Black pupils, these are principles here that true always, not denying the slightest sequence shift, not denying the slightest finite detail left out, grouped, simultaneous. There is one way to cause evolution's fruits, gifts, means out of nowhere. It also requires us to check to make sure it's not criminal insidious natures of positive and negative, as positives only. But if we did that, if we were taught to do that, we would look around and discern. Our founders' communications are and have been replaced. And not one has paced, but to pretend, to puff and pretend they can't believe. Do not deceive. Sayings, the overt criminal enterprises and private ones were shown they need to hide killers, shown they need to hide life progressions per their roles with differences in the past, active and to come. Boxing is fun one way, but it may pray and give us rest. I tell best. Get them on paper, please. I gave them time. They're one of the things we're going to go into further too is their use of location/S. Weathersfield Police Chief Cintron and 1 year before him, or two apparently, involved with 80 Carrollville Drive near me, with some Mendez police and other police with ones with the name Dylan, involved at Hartford Hospital 3 times with predicate acts of facts against me, refusing to get on paper. They have overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and people have been sticking fake things on campuses, intercities. They have rules of murders, untimely deaths, and confessions. The probate court, the people involved with the probation of Mike Oliver, if they made that up to Shafiq God, the ones involved with the Mike, with a Kyle Gill, he's not the one who says he's a probation officer, but he's also they're involved with New Park Avenue and Hartford as the ones on the sides of Central Connecticut through State University through time. And there are some directors of movies and things like that, and roles interstates with the FBI and the foreign and domestic military there, and with some leasing agents involved on Covington Street, and their workers involved also with the houses next to them through time, involved with the interbranch from Weathersfield, involved with predicate acts with kids, and with judges and prosecutors and victims advocates screening the roles of the victims with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and all these predicate acts with fax methods where they prevent writing so they can put fake things in databases as collusions, and to screen then and further need to screen their roles too. Then as ones with time collusions with the World Trade Center attack, and the extended family members of the same house/S involved with such, and the news predicate acts about that. WFSB is recording, confessing, demonstrating, confirming. They have roles with all kinds of people with putting predicate acts with facts in databases and acting tied to it. Their sources at the same time with other news locations too. People involved with criminally foreign influence uses of their collusions with that, and the difference of the collusions at the public television locations and their Facebook pages and their YouTube pages. WFSB too. WFSB's criminally foreign influence, refusing to follow mandated law as collusion/S with all kinds of natures of organized crimes at the same time. You don't steal some of the fake conversations with yourself, fake ties to yourself, fake locations with yourself, and fake conversations about the World Trade Center. They attached others to change communications about the World Trade Center attack too. And my family, they put me in fake communications and changed communications with my family about it too. And they did that to my family too. They put them in changed communication. They lied about what the court's outcomes were in relative cases with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and with various natures of federal criminals associated with an NLRB, National Labor Relations Board case, for example, that my father won against a local 230, who increasingly has their family members involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders against me, and with people on Church Street in Old Weathersfield, involved with the news at the corner of the street with some acting professors and people with the departments at Central Connecticut State University in Britain, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed through time, involved with all kinds of predicate acts with facts and identity thefts and frauds and filming illusions with people all along Route 175 from New Britain, Connecticut, through Newington and through Weathersfield to the founding locations, where they still have other pretended communicated legitimately for James Madison and our founders who told us to refer to them plural as James Madison singular. Again, and then they went and got George Washington to tend to agree to help them to use the plan. But we're supposed to be honest about the extortion of George Washington and about why and how no one had free speech No one had the ability to speak honest about their motivations, too. Everyone had to screen roles with the breaching method, to screen the breaching method's roles with everything, otherwise be sensed, too, including if it was everyone together. And that would have been adapted to. Ugh. Who disbelieves? We need who disbelieves law because they're not following mandated law. They're pretending, well, I don't know, it's not my job. They're just playing. You hear no evil, see no predicate acts with facts methods, zone defense. We must break. But you guys are obligated to break it. Please, you can't do what's right. Get them on paper, one name and sequence. Who disbelieves? Get me off the fake conversations with this Leahy family and the other ones that they forged the names of, apparently and demonstrably. Former director of the FBI Robert Luskin's involved with those people personally and professionally too, with judges and prosecutors. This is Judge Killian too, criminally foreign tactical illusions raw, sequence shifts, digital crimes too, with a Dr. Aziz with some child sex offenders proven since before that was proven they have roles forcing that. Changing and faking digital evidence is also with whiting forensics and people named Joshua Julian, people with this Leahy family too, involved with them, other judges too, and the judicial branch officers and the corrections officers involved with them, some black KKK, Confederate flag team, and all kinds of confessions from strangers tied to this Leahy family because they've been putting fake things in my street through time. Same ones involved with wire crimes and predicate acts with the Weathersfield police. Fear God. In the courts, plural. And the judicial and corrections officers' names next to them. Yes.